Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and turn on notifications so that you will receive alerts when there are new episodes. Go get it.
That's what I tell them. I've been grinding for so long, I wake up and chase my goals. I go out and I go get it. How to code, that's all I know. I don't succeed, then I don't breathe. Success, what does it mean? If I conquer all my goals, then I'm living out my dream. Dig deep, go out and get it. Success Chronicles. Compete until it's finished. Success Chronicles. Go take care of your business. Success Chronicles. It's deeper than just winning. Success Chronicles.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Chip Baker coming to you with another episode of the Success Chronicles. And today we have Miss Morgane Michael on with us. Awesome lady, educator, creative, doing some amazing things to positively impact, and truly grateful to have her on this episode. So first, thanks so much for taking the time to interview with the Success Chronicles.
Oh, Chip, thank you so much for having me on. I'm really excited to be doing this podcast with you.
Well, let's go. Let's get it. Well, if you don't mind sharing with the audience a little bit about, who you are and what it is you do.
Sure. So essentially, I am a teacher. I've been educating kids for probably about 15 years now. I'm mostly in the primary realm. So I teach kindergarten through to grade 2, but I've been sort of sitting in that kindergarten spot for quite a while. And initially I was kind of scared of the position, to be honest. It's like it takes a special person to really get in there and understand these little 4 and 5-year-olds. And I just love it. They have such a great energy, and the way that you get to see the world through their eyes is pretty unique. Not a lot of adults get to sort of see the world in this very just innocent, earnest, awe-inspired kind of way generally. And they are so honest, the kids,
Yes.
they are straight up. They will not tell a lie, really.
Yeah.
And
Authentic.
they're just so authentic. And so there's something really beautiful about that before all the stories get layered on and all the maladaptive things that we do as adults. There's none of that. They're just pretty pure. If they're sad, they're sad. If they're mad, they're mad. If they've got, the nuanced little feelings, they'll tell you. And so I love that about my job. I'm also a mom. So I have 2 kids. One, I'm kind of in my job, I'm kind of sandwiched in between like work that looks kind of like being surrounded by kids.
Yeah.
And then I come home and then there's more of them at home. So that's sort of where I'm at right now. My daughter just turned 8 and my son is about to turn 6. So a really busy but fun time at home as well. And then I'm an author. So I just recently published a book about educator burnout, which was kind of a serendipitous thing we'll probably talk about a little bit later. But back in March of 2020, I signed a contract with a publishing company to write a book about educators, and it was around self-care. And I don't think we realized the extent to which teachers would feel burnt out. I think we already felt this baseline of feeling burnt out. And then the pandemic hit and it was just like exponentially worse. So it came out just recently in December, and it's been really well received, and I'm really proud of it. So I'm excited to talk about that a little bit. And then I've got a podcast. And so podcast is just about basically self-care strategies, but also about creating cultures of inclusivity in the schools, and really just about helping people to feel seen and heard, and then giving other people the superpower to do the very same thing, because I think at the crux of our overall success, this is a podcast about success, is our ability to see people and help them to see themselves. So, yeah, that's me.
Oh my gosh, so good. Lots of great things that you're involved in, making it a positive impact. And seems like with all of that stuff that you're doing, you should be tired. Like I was taking notes, I was writing down some of this stuff. Oh man, she got a lot on her plate. But I understand that life, and I think that we wouldn't have it any other way either.
That's right. What do they say? They say you're not burnt out because you're doing too much. It's just you're doing too much of the wrong thing. And I think a lot of the, I don't know even who said that, right? But it's just that idea that when you fill your life up with things that feel enriching, you end up being energized, right? I think you surround yourself with the people that love you, that choose you, that are quality people, then you feel more of that. You do projects on the side. I'm painting my cabinets right now, and that's kind of crazy, but there's a sense of empowerment and of accomplishment, so I think we seek growth, and that's a big driver for me for sure. So that could be why I juggle a lot of balls, but every so often I have to take stock, right? Like anybody, and go, maybe we take something off the list, but yeah.
No, trust me. I totally understand that life. Totally.
Yeah.
Well, what are 3 things you've accomplished in your life that you're proud of?
I like that question. You know what? I'm going to start really small. So actually, and remind me that there's 2 more to talk about.
Hey, you do. If you just give one, I'd be grateful. So let's go. No.
Okay, so this is really small. I think sometimes our successes are made in those micro moments. It's not really about the giant goals that you've accomplished, because sometimes it's more. This is very cliche, but it's like more about the journey and less about that end cap. Because I think when you get to that end goal, you kind of go, okay, now what? I actually got rear-ended by a vehicle just a couple of days ago. And it wasn't a really bad accident. It was just a little, fender bender. And I ended up talking to the guy and asking to just pull over and getting his information or whatever. But I was really calm, and I was pretty kind, I think. I just sort of gave him the benefit of the doubt and just said, listen, nobody intends to hit anybody. It's just, it's a Thursday afternoon, it's a Wednesday afternoon. We're all tired. This is what happens. I just need your information. We're going to have to go through with this. But I was calm and I was respectful, and I didn't blame him. There was none of that. And at the end, he kind of turned to me before leaving, and he just said, I really appreciate you. And he was this big dude, the huge, he could have gone either way. I was like, oh man, what am I in for here? And he just said, I appreciate you. And I was like, okay. And he's like, you were just really chill. I really appreciate that. And I was like, you know what? I'm really proud of that. I'm proud of the way it showed up. And I think that there's something in the way that you can bring sort of like just an authenticity, a vulnerability, just a general kindness when it comes to those interactions, even in an accident or even in, a situation where it could be escalated really quickly.
Real quick.
And it wasn't. I just thought, I'm really proud of that moment. And it was such a small moment. So I just think we have that opportunity to sort of shift the way that our interactions or potential conflicts go if we just take the time to take a beat, center ourselves, and sort of just remember that we can keep things at arm's length. It doesn't have to be personal or emotional, So that's one.
That's a great analogy. And I think if we can take that and use that to everything in our life,
right,
it'll help us with stress. It'll help us make more of a positive impact.
Right.
It's always cool when you do things like, just as you were saying it, I was thinking, when you react in a certain way that people may not expect, and it takes them aback. You're like, no, we're good.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's not about being a doormat. Like, I think this is the piece I've had to learn a little bit, is like, you can still have boundaries, or I still signed for him to pull over, and I still said,
communicate your needs.
That's right. You got to communicate the needs, and you've got to still be assertive, and it doesn't mean you let people take advantage of you. Yeah. But I think you can do it with humility and kindness and strength, like a quiet strength. And so I was proud of that. And I think, awesome. Another thing that I think I'm really proud of my book. I actually had, I'd written down way back after I had my son. So my son is my younger of the 2 kids. And I think when you're in the trenches with 2 little kids, when they're in diapers still and it's busy, you have a bit of an identity, or many people do. I had an identity crisis, a little bit, just going, who am I? What am I? I'm not working. I'm a mom, but am I showing up the way I want to? And I just had a bit of a reckoning where I was starting to journal a lot and just write down, what do I see for myself? What do hope to achieve? What do I want to do? And I wrote down, write a book. And I was kind of surprised that my pen even wrote that on the page, because I'm like, what business do I have to be writing a book? I don't even write. Like, what do I have to say, you know?
Yeah.
And I started reading a lot of sort of like, I guess, self-help books, but a lot of that stuff just around psychology and social psychology. And I love that, just understanding people. And I actually got a contract with a different publisher about a different topic that actually I wasn't an expert in at all, like zero. And it sort of, I wrote 80,000 words, and I ended up submitting it to the publisher, and it was just kind of a mess. And I felt, I spent 2 days kind of just grieving it and going, this is my book that I was going to have, and it's not the book. And I just felt sad. I thought that my opportunity to write a book was done. And then March of 2020 hit. And this was after I had already done my podcast, and I'd had it up and running, probably about 100 episodes by this point. And an education publisher reached out, Solution Tree. And they said, hey, we've been, listening to your podcast and we love it. And just wondering if you have a book in you. And I'm like, do I have a book in me? Because I was, I was journaling a lot and blogging. And I said, I do, I feel like I do. I have a lot of topics I want to write around resiliency and around self-care and around creativity, which is a topic that not a lot of, I think, self-help books really, and sort of self-development books really talk about, is creativity as a means of self-expression. And so I said, yes, I think I do have a book in me. I don't know. I've never done this really in this way before, but I'm willing to try. And so we signed a contract the day that the world shut down. I think it was like March 13th of 2020.
Wow.
And I know it just felt I just felt guided at that time, I felt, like you said before in our pre-recording conversation, there's sort of this sense that there's something bigger than you at play. And so I just kind of leaned into it and went, okay, let's try this out. And it was great. It was a wonderful experience, hard, but it was a wonderful experience, and I'm so proud of it. And I, I've had quite a few teachers reach out, and I do a lot of professional development, and I think it helps people. And I think that's ultimately what I hoped for, is it helped me. I think every stage of that book helped me in some way, in a very authentic way, whenever I was struggling or when things were tricky, or, connecting with people. And so it feels really, really fun to be able to share that with people, Yeah.
Yeah, it's good stuff when you can pour out from your heart.
Yeah,
from a
exactly.
good-hearted place based on your experiences. Because I think on the other end of that, that you're not the only one that's growing through that. Other people are too, and it'll be beneficial for them.
I hope so, and I just want people to be okay. And I think so many of us, when when we're stressed or when we're feeling sad or even maybe depressed or anxious, and I think we turn inward and we forget that we're not only part of a bigger collective, but that also we're not alone in those feelings. And I think when people say that, it sounds almost cliche, but it's truly, when we're able to kind of put that pain a little bit outward and share it with other people, we offload the shame, we offload kind of that feeling of aloneness, and the loneliness is a real catalyst for spinning deeper. So I think being able to sort of articulate how we're feeling and dig into that's one of the strategies, right? Is being able to name the feelings that you have, say them, identify where you're feeling them in your body, and then being able to actually say, what do I need right now? And then figure out a way to share that with people. How do you meet your needs? And I think when we have our needs met, we can kind of dig ourselves out of not everything, but some of that aloneness, right?
Okay, Morgane, now you're talking my language. No, I think that whole self-reflection, looking inward to project outward, looking within to win, all of that. I'm all about that. I think that just like you said, when we can figure out the way to first understand that, I don't care who you are, none of us are immune from growing through tough things.
Yeah.
Like all of us. And so I think once you figure that out, you see that hey, I'm not the only one. Because a lot of times when you're going through your stuff, you're thinking, man, am I the only weird one in the world that's going through this
Yes.
craziness? I've got to be the only weird one, right?
Yeah.
But really, no, you're not. You know,
Yeah.
there's been people, you know, throughout the years that have done
Yeah.
it, have seen the exact same, you know,
That's
and
right.
so then you go into your perspective, you know, yes, things could be better, but they can also be worse. And then now that allows you to kind of
Yeah.
dig yourself out the hole. And like you said, articulate and find help and find means to help you grow and be better. And
Yeah.
that
Exactly.
journey, oh, it's an amazing journey when you
It
get to where
is.
you've taken at least, you know, one step towards
Mhm.
your growth. And then, you know, before you know it, you know, you're jogging, and then now you're sprinting to that success. And now you're like, oh man, this has been good.
Yeah. And I think taking stock of where you are, like, I think
Yeah.
there's, it's really easy to keep like striving and wanting and sometimes it's important to go like the place that you are right now may just be where you hope to be 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And sometimes it's easy to forget that
Yeah.
that's where you wanted to be, or even just the act of writing something down about where you want to go. There's so much research that says that if
Power in
we
that.
write things down, that there's a more, we have this like reticulating activating system in our brain that aligns ourselves with that subconscious desire to achieve goals and to achieve success. And when we write it down, there's something that happens physiologically that will make it more likely for us to align ourselves in that direction with our subconscious decisions. So like, say if it's like a fitness thing, if you've written down, I want to be living a healthy lifestyle so that I can run around and keep up with my kids and be an active teacher and whatever. And then you find yourself at 8:30 p.m., and you're reaching for the bag of chips, and something inside will say, well, that doesn't align with that goal. Like that's not that same person, because you align your values and you sort of identify the kind of person you want to be. Well, that person probably wouldn't be the person who reaches for the chips, right? So there's something about being intentional about your acts and really like where you want to see yourself and the kind of person you want to be. And that helps you through those values, I think, to make better choices in terms of your actions, right? Which I think is the key. It's like, you can't just want something. You have to really
Work it.
define it. And then the action behind it. That's
Yeah.
everything, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Man, this is so good.
So
Well,
good. I love it.
well, is there a third thing?
A third thing, you know what? I will say my podcast, which is kind of tied in. So it's all kind of, my kids, like I'm proud of my kids and all that.
Right.
I think that family piece is big. And I think that has been a huge growth learning journey. I think there's an idea in your head of who you think you'll be as a parent and then who you actually are, and then unlearning all the stories that you might have carried. Oh my
unlearning
gosh.
the lies.
And like, yeah. And then like the stories that you carried with you from your own childhood and being like, oh my gosh, is this my mom coming out? Like who is speaking these words? It's not me. And so I think just checking yourself a little bit and being like, gosh, and having to apologize sometimes and being like, that was not how I meant to show up, but here I am. And I think that's huge too, is just having the humility to be firm, but then also sometimes go, damn, I got it wrong that time, and be willing to apologize. And that's humbling too, right? But it teaches your kids that, one, you're not human and infallible. And then the other thing is that they can screw up and there's the opportunity for repair, right? There's always, we have this reset thing in our house where if things just, the wheels fall off the bus, well, we can always just go, hold on, well, let's have a reset, because this is not how anybody wants to show up. And that works pretty well most of the time, which is a good thing. But yeah, the podcast, I think is something in terms of like achievement or whatever that I'm really proud of. And actually, I don't know if you're familiar with Seth Godin, but he's a marketing guru, right? And I remember he was being interviewed by Marie Forleo. I'm a huge fan of podcasts, by the way. So this was before I had my podcast. And I remember him almost like reaching through that earpiece as I was walking, I was walking Tyson, my little guy, when he was a newborn. And he like reached through and just like did something to my brain. So he just said something along the lines of like, stop waiting around to be picked. You have to pick yourself. Don't wait for the gatekeepers to let you in and anoint you with success. Like, you have to be the one to claim it. You have to be the one to see your worthiness. You need to be the one to determine what it is that you want for your life. And then figure out, like, are you proud of the trail that you're leaving behind? And I was like, am I proud of the trail? Oh my gosh. And so I started thinking about that, going like, I love these podcasting discussions. And I just love this. And then he had this podcasting fellowship, and I never really did any of those online courses or anything, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a leap. I'm going to do this. And I did this podcast fellowship with him, and it was the inaugural one. So it was the very first one he ever did. And he was on those calls, like himself. And I remember being a very active member on the community boards. And at the very end, he emailed me personally, and he was like, Morgane, I'm in awe. Like like just very sweet. Cause I push a lot of positivity out. Like that's probably, as a teacher, that's my superpower. It's not always content. It's not always curriculum, but I believe in those students, and I'm good at pushing that out. And so I think within the capacity as a peer-to-peer coach, I think I did okay. And he was just so lovely. And he said, if there's anything I can ever do for you, and I'm like, if there's anything you can do, okay. And then I waited a couple of days, and then I was like, would you be on my podcast? And he said, yes. And so I had him on my podcast, and twice now, actually. And he is the most generous, pure soul, do you know? And he really leads through example. He's an amazing person, really, really bright man, and has written like 20 books or something, just ridiculous. But I just, that was something I was really proud of. And it took, I think, me just kind of claiming, just going, I'm claiming this goal. I'm claiming this desire to do this. And I'm not seeking approval from my peers who don't understand. Like, people will misunderstand you, right? And so you kind of have to, like, your friends are going to be the last ones to jump on this, like the celebration bandwagon when you try something new. They're the ones who are going to want to try to kind of keep you down. Not because they don't want well for you, but they're scared, and then they'll put their fears on you. Right. I actually had an intervention from two of my friends who said, we think you're taking on too much with this book and this podcast, and we're worried that it's going to be too much. And I think back to this Jay-Z quote, where I didn't say this because I didn't want to seem like a jerk, but he says this thing. He's like, it's too much for you, but it's not too much for me. Like, I'm okay. This feels good for me right now, but I think, when people try to imagine themselves in your shoes, they have a hard time, right? So you kind of have to go, all right, that's not your journey, but it's mine, and kind of stand in that. It can be lonely. It can be lonely sometimes, right? But
man, you said you brought out the Jay-Z. I didn't know where you was going with the quote. I know you gonna say, "Show me what you got," or "I'm not a businessman. I'm a business man." I didn't know where you're going, but I was ready. I love music. I was ready for it.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
That's good. Well, man, just hearing you talk about your journey, your story, the light you shine, the things that you're proud of. And I would definitely consider that hugely successful. So let's hit on success. What is your definition of success?
Yeah. I think for some people, it's kind of those classic metrics of money and accolades and possessions and all of that. And I think for a long time, probably subconsciously, even though I didn't want to admit to myself, I think that definitely was sort of like in my head what I considered to be success. I do think about success a little bit differently. Like I think it's largely, how do people feel within your presence? Do they feel like the best version of themselves? And if they do, and they leave an interaction with you and they tend to feel filled up, or they feel like they can really see themselves and you see them, and you're able to make a quality interaction. I think that's success, honestly, because you can't bring all your stuff with you at the end of the day, but you can have a legacy, and you can have people who remember you and people who miss you. And that's not something that possessions will ever afford you. And I think money comes and goes, the market changes, all of that stuff. And I think your worthiness is really about those connections you make. And it doesn't have to be about, do you have 10,000 friends and followers and all that? Because that's empty. Like, I don't really feel that you can be really lonely in that. But I think it's about, do you have quality people in your life who have reciprocal relationships with you? Because I think that's everything. And there's a lot of research around, your overall well-being and happiness, your livelihood, your health depends on the quality of your social interactions. And so I think that that's a really important, if you're thinking about ROI, like return on investment, social interactions, right? That's where it's at. You have to think about investing in those. And I think that's been a shift for me. I think when I grew up, there was a lot of emphasis on do well in school, and that's important, and do your homework before you do anything else, that sort of thing. And I carried a lot of that into my career. And I think as a teacher, the clock never stops. And so you have to be able to press pause on your work and go, done is better than perfect. And then go and have some fun on the weekend, or go and, go out for dinner with your friends or whatever. Like, go do something that makes you feel like a human being, not just a teacher, because that's important. We need to fill ourselves up in order to be able to give to our students. So yeah, that's what I think success is in a very long nutshell.
No. Okay, so now you're hitting on my stuff again here. Okay, so let me go back with you.
Yeah.
Throughout what you just said, there was three things that came up for me that I want to make sure I share with you from my heart as well. Just you talked about being present, and I love how you said how do people feel in your presence. I think the first thing is when we understand that our presence is the present.
Yes.
When we know that, then that allows us to govern our actions and move in the right ways, because we know that each opportunity is an opportunity for us to make an impact.
Yes,
and
exactly.
So, yeah. And then you hit on like the relationships. I love that, reciprocal relationships, mutualistic, you got to, you have to be on the same, the same accord. And then have ways to make sure that if you're off, that you get back, to that accord as well. And I want to share this quote that I heard from one of my former pastors. When I heard it, like, it blew me away. I shared a lot, but life moves at the speed of our relationships.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that was Pastor Danny Green. He was at one of my former pastors in my church, but I heard him say that. I mean, it blew me away because it's so true. I mean, think about it, those of us that are doing great things. We have quality relationships in our life. People that we can depend on, people that can help us, people that'll look out for us, even if they're scared for us. Like, hey, don't go out there. It's dangerous.
Yes.
I know. I want to do it. I'm ready. I'm prepared. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. But I love that. That's really that's so true.
Yeah. And then you talked about the investments. And this is one thing. I'm an acronym guy, and I believe that your ROI determines your ROI. And so for me, that's your radar of influence determines your return on your investment. And it's an inverse relationship. Your return on your investment determines your radar of influence.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what you put into something is what you're going to get out of it.
Yeah.
Right. The more that you push to do things, to, like you said, your example with the, like being in the group with, you didn't have to choose to do that.
Yeah.
But you put yourself out, you invested in that, your time, your energy, your effort.
Absolutely.
And so now you receive the benefit to that because you put yourself out there.
Yeah. And I think something to also point out is, I think, like, for the right reasons, right? It's not like I didn't go in. Yeah. And I think the thing I didn't go in going, oh, okay, if I
I
do
want
X number of
this.
comments,
Yeah, no,
then whatever,
yeah.
right? Like it's
It's
not calculated.
pure-hearted from a
It
good
does. It
place.
has, yeah.
Pure-hearted intentions.
And I think that like if you believe in that whole idea of like feeling guided and like things opening when they're meant to, like
Yeah.
that I think it all has to come authentically. Like you
Mm-hmm.
can't pretend, you can't be trying to game the system. Like it has to be authentic to really feel that, right?
I don't know. This may be a Jay-Z quote or from where I'm from. It's what they say. A
Yeah.
real recognize real, you know.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I mean, like, you know, like
Yeah.
kids know fake, you know, like we know, you know what I'm saying? Like, so
Oh yeah.
I mean, I think people can see genuine, people can see authentic,
Mm-hmm.
people can see pure.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's a great place to be because I'm showing up as my authentic self,
Yes.
you know.
Yes. And that's where connection lies. I think it's
Yeah.
like in the imperfect human
Yes.
self, seeing another imperfect human and going,
Yeah.
I see me and you.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I'm broken too. I feel
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we
Yeah.
are like able to move forward and just be, and I think that's the thing
Together.
is like, yeah, and
Yeah.
less of that loneliness, because then you're like, well, I'm not the only one who's walked, and it may not be the same story, but you've walked some element of that struggle, right? And that's what we need, you know. I think that's what we need right now, is whether it's our students that we're guiding or it's the parents within our midst that we're trying to support, you know, if they're struggling, our colleagues, I think our friends and family, I think to be able to understand and walk through the world with that sense of empathy that like we're all struggling with our own little battles, big, small, whatever. And I think if we just tend to give people the benefit of the doubt in that interaction and really think about intentions, like what is the intention behind the action generally versus how we receive it? Because I think we put our own stories on it. And then if you've got two different people operating with these, sometimes conflicting stories, that then you're sort of working in this place of assumptions and it can get messy. So I think just being clear about what's the intended purpose behind an action or a statement, and then being curious about it instead of making those snap judgments. And I think if we led with curiosity just a little more, that I think there'd be a lot more peace and a little less conflict, maybe.
For sure.
Yeah.
Morgane, this has been a true delight to get on and chop it up with you, learn and grow. But as we close, if you don't mind sharing with the audience where they can go follow you and check you out and listen to the podcast, purchase the book, follow you and show you some love.
Thank you so much. Okay, well, the book is called From Burnt Out to Fired Up, and you can get it on Amazon. You can get it on Barnes and Noble, anywhere that you get books. And then also my podcast is called KindSight 101, and it's searchable on iTunes or Spotify, pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts, you can find it. And then I have an Instagram account that's probably my most active of the socials, but it's at Small Act Big Impact, or you can search my name, Morgane Michael. And I also have a website, smallactbigimpact.com, and it's got lesson plans on kindness and a blog and some other connected resources. So that's where you can find me. And it's been so much fun. Thank you, Chip.
Yeah, had a blast. It's been a good time. I truly appreciate it. And I'm truly grateful for you taking the time to interview with the Success Chronicles.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right. And thank you guys for checking out this episode. We'll see you next time. God bless. Go get it.